Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit TRE.radio.
Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests. Viewpoint.
It is Tuesday, the 9th of December. You listen to Viewpoint, Talk Radio Europe's current affairs programme, where we discuss the issues of the day with invited guests. Thanks to Dave for Daybreak, by the way. I'm with you for the next 2 hours, joined in the studio, as always, by Andres Gallardo. If you wish to get a viewpoint across, it can be local, national, or international. Then these are the numbers to get in touch with us this morning.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
First of all, let's have a look at the front pages of the papers, kicking off with a number of the today's papers carry photographs of Prime Minister Keir Starmer with the Ukrainian, French and German leaders after their talks in Downing Street on Monday. The Times reports that a deal to release up to £100 billion of frozen Russian assets in Europe, which could be used to help Ukraine with the war on reconstruction, is only days away. The paper says the money is one of the few cards the Europeans have to use in negotiations with Washington. Meanwhile, the Daily Telegraph reports that Donald Trump's peace deal could be on the brink of collapse because of President Volodymyr Zelensky's insistence that Ukraine has no obligation to cede territory to Russia. It says that Kyiv will send a Europe-backed counter-proposal to the US president later on Tuesday. The Financial Times claims that the former Prime Minister Tony Blair is no longer being considered for Trump's so-called Board of Peace in Gaza after objections from Arab and Muslim states. The paper says the opposition is in part because of his support for the US-led invasion of Iraq in 2003. But a source close to Sir Tony has told the BBC that the board will be made up of serving world leaders, so he does not qualify, but he will sit on a smaller executive committee. Migrants crossing the channel in small boats are bringing heroin into Britain on behalf of people smugglers. That's according to the investigation called out by the Telegraph. It says asylum seekers are being offered free or cut price crossings from northern France if they swallow packets of Class A drugs and deliver them to organised criminal gangs. The paper said it shared its findings with the Home Office. Most of the papers, oh blimey, the BBC's got a spelling mistake on its thing. That's my bête noire. Its findings, and they've done it IT''S. That's really bad. That's a really bad. So therefore, I think we need to discount that story. Meanwhile, most of the people who had heroin swallowing on migrants on small boats in their bingo card this year. Yeah, anyway, most of the papers carry photographs of the Queen visiting the studios in Bristol where the second series of Disney Plus hit Rivals is being filmed. Camilla was famously good friends with the late Dame Jilly Cooper, who wrote the book it's based on. The Mirror reports the Queen told the cast she binge-watched the first series while she was recovering from pneumonia. The Express says Dame Jilly herself had confirmed that the book's Lothario, Rupert Campbell Black, was inspired by her friend Andrew Parker Bowles, the Queen's ex-husband. So, those front pages this morning. From the top, The Guardian, a critical moment. European leaders rally behind Ukraine. The Times, deal to unlock £100 billion deal for Ukraine within days. The Independent, Britain under attack from Putin's cyber army, says Cooper. Meanwhile, the Financial Times, they say that London calling Zelensky calls for dignified peace as allies meet to discuss US proposal. The pension pot will delay UK retirement age. Experts warn. This is policies of capping pension salary sacrifice schemes and slashing the tax-free limit for cash ESAs will delay UK retirement age. Budget policies could lead to threadbare private pension pots. Meanwhile, the Telegraph leads with boat migrants smuggling heroin. Meanwhile, Daily Express, Neve lead no stone unturned for grooming gangs probe. Kemi Badenoch calls for a tough inquiry as Tories vow to deport British-born culprits. The Mirror, together we pull light out of darkness. This is the unbreakable bond forged between the parents of the Southport attack victims who are offering comfort in the shape of impossible grief. After sharing baby photographs of Elsie Stancombe, Alice da Silva Aguila and Bebe King as part of a BBC documentary, the families say their friendship allows them to pull the light out of the darkness. Daily Mail, head of Navy's broadside at Reeves over defence cash. Cops v criminals in e-bike pursuit. This is police with e-bikes to take down gangs in London. So they're calling it a tour de force. And finally, the Daily Star, because, hey, we need a laugh. This is about the Prime Minister to become the first Prime Minister on TikTok behind huge fears over the Chinese app. So, no Prime Minister, secure TikToking rubbish. And those, for better or worse, are your headlines on this Tuesday, the 9th of December.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
And as I said before, I'm joined in the studio by Andres Gallardo. Andres, good morning to you.
Good morning, Giles. Good morning. How are you?
I'm all very well, all things considered.
Do you know my question is genuine, and I want to make sure that you are happy and content as you ever are.
I haven't been happy since 1974. Next question, and then I was only 6.
It's not a question.
Yes. Why are you asking if I'm happy?
Oh, it's nice to know. It's a festive season.
Is it?
Yeah, it is a festive season.
Ho, ho, ho.
Exactly.
Yes, no. Well, of course, because this is well, also for all freelancers out there, this is the end of days, because if you don't get your invoice in between Immaculate Conception, was it Immaculate Conception?
Immaculate Conception, yeah.
That was yesterday, or was that?
Did you know?
No.
That's quite this is quite an interesting one.
Go on then.
The Immaculate Conception wasn't a dogma until 1854. I learned that yesterday. It was a belief,
yes,
but it didn't become a dogma until the 1854. Because it's quite recent, if you think about it.
Well, I believe, well, yes, indeed. But obviously not, late for Mary. But what I was going to say was, I was at a church function yesterday, believe it or not.
Okay.
The Danish church in Las Lagunas in Mijas. If you haven't been, I recommend it. It's a very lovely little church there.
Okay.
Right? Fine, okay. And we had a sermon. And they were talking about this whole thing about... Here we go, because we'll go off the thing. A dogma, what a time to be alive. Good morning to you, Richard. Yes, good to have you with us as well. The festive greetings. And he was talking about this whole thing about, is Christmas a pagan festival stolen from, is it a festival that's been bolted onto Saturnalia, which was the Roman festival, in terms of, but it hasn't been. And this is my thing. I was about to stand up and go, actually, you're wrong, Rev, because they were saying that there was a well-known festival to honour Satan, honour Saturn, who was basically Roman god Jupiter. If I'm getting it right, no, I'm not. Saturn is the version of Cronus in the Greek. Okay, Cronus is hence Goya's famous picture, Saturn devouring his sons.
Okay,
in the Parado.
I'm trying to follow. Yes.
Okay, fine. Anyway, so the Romans used to have this bash for him, basically a celebration, because the Romans didn't have weekends. But there was no
didn't have weekends.
There was no such thing as thank God it's Friday in Latin. They didn't say Romanus. So they had holidays. They had like Spain does, basically. They had local holidays and the whole thing. They had so many gods. They used to have big holidays for the gods, basically. And one of the days off was for Saturn. And it was around about the 17th, 18th of December. We had quite a few through the year. And people have always been arguing that they bolted that one on. But they didn't, because it was basically, there is now evidence that the Christian faith was up and running in the 300s AD, and so they were running at the same time. And also Christians didn't used to have give each other presents, because on the Saturnalia used to give each other presents of small dolls, believe it or not, and the Christians didn't.
Okay.
So therefore, anyway, that was my point. I was thinking that was
fascinating, really. I'm sure your listeners are now glued to the.
No, because it's just people all say, "Oh no," because they all say, "Oh no," you see, I know, you see, because the thing is, it's that all pagan, all Christmas festivals are taken from this one pagan festival. They're all linked in, I
actually thought he was stealing the pagan festivity and changing it for a religious one, but close during the dates. Like in the summer, we got San Juan.
Yeah.
And there was the pagan celebration of the equinox. Yeah. That's all. I always thought that, but obviously you're telling me differently now. So I have no evidence to contradict you. So
no, Richard. Richard, what I was saying is 300 AD. Yeah, I mean, I know that Jesus was around at 0 BC, but what I'm saying is, at the same time, there is evidence that Christians and pagans, if you like, the Romans, were both celebrating their festivals. But early Christians didn't used to celebrate birthdays either, because it was seen as a pagan thing. So there you go.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And therefore the reason that we have December the 25th is because the unity of Christianity, the theory goes, is because Jesus is supposed to die on the day that he is born, not the same day, but the same, that same cycle. So if you take it back that Jesus dies around March the 25th and take it 9 months from there, bingo. Anyway, good morning to Steve Ritson. Oh, I thought you might come up with this one. I've just completely bamboozled. Look, if I could see your face, right. So for all those Latin lovers out there, and good morning, Latin. But this Latin lover is Deo gratias ago, Deo gratias ago, dies veneris est. Thank God it's Friday. In Latin. So Deo gratias ago, dies veneris est.
That's fascinating.
That's written for you. So you give him an inch, he'll come back with an epithet in Latin. Right then, let's get on with the if you want to get involved with that, if you are thinking, what have the Romans ever done for us, then these are indeed the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Yes, indeed. Okay, let's look at the main story. The main story that's on the front pages of all the papers in the UK is this whole situation going on in Ukraine. It's very interesting, I thought, because there was a report out from the US government this week about outlining. Yeah, they're all shaking hands. Yeah. It looks like Macron's got him in a sort of like an arm wrestle, but there you go. Anyway, there was a report out from the US about their policy. And it was really made quite interesting reading about saying that they said that Europe was undergoing a cultural erosion, and that in 20 years' time, this is from the United States, this is signed off by President Trump, that it was in danger. The Europeans are trampling human rights. The demographic means that European civilization, i.e., basically white civilization, etc., will be wiped out of Europe, and that Trump, the US should sort of energetically follow those countries, those parties that were fighting back against that. So you know where this is going, don't you? And this is going. So report for Reform UK in the UK, Reform UK in the UK, the French far right, and of course AfD in Germany, where Elon Musk is going. It's quite interesting, and Moscow came back out of this one saying, yeah, we in general we follow those views. We're quite happy with that in US foreign policy, which completely upsets the geopolitical apple cart, I would say, because it means that where we grew up with the certainty that basically it was capitalism on one side against the Soviet communism on the other. Now it seems that I would argue, me honour, that this is a continuation of Trump's ideas of the big three, i.e. China with its sphere of influence, Russia with its sphere of influence, and he wants to have, the US sphere of influence as well.
Yeah, this is what is clear is that our world and today's world, our world meaning when we were young, and it was pretty clear who was who in the world of geopolitics. That has changed recently dramatically in everywhere, and you got situations that we have tried to maintain. One clear one is NATO, for instance. NATO's origin and the use they had at the time as a deterrent for the Iron Curtain and the Cold War and everything else. All that is been lost during, in the last few years or in the last 10 years, if you like, and the influence of NATO and the members of NATO have changed positions. You got Turkey in there, which is one of the largest armies in terms of personnel, but they are heavy influence in the Middle East, in Russia and everything. So it's not that ally that it could have been when they originally joined NATO. You've got, other international bodies like the United Nations, which is like, in my opinion, useless. They don't achieve anything in terms of in the international stage. So things are changing rapidly. Yes, there seems to be now that we have a three-tier front with Chinese, the Russians, and the Americans. Europe are there in the middle, and we were always certainly big allies with the United States. It was a common front, and Trump seems to have blown that stability. But let's not forget that Trump has got 3 years to go, and unless something very dramatic happens, Trump won't be there in 3 years' time. So you reasonably might think that alliance we might come back together in the no distant future. But yeah, it's very unsettling in many fronts, and things that I think Trump said about, Europe being in the verge of destroying itself, I think he's taking it a little bit too far.
For those who didn't see this, it was a 33-page document that came out at the end of last week. And it suggested that Europe was facing, quote-unquote, civilizational erasure, okay? It said combating foreign influence, ending mass migration, and rejecting the EU's perceived practice of censorship, right? Obviously, that several EU officials pushed back. In the document, the EU is blamed for blocking the US efforts to end the conflict in Ukraine, and said the US must re-establish strategic stability to Russia, which would stabilize European economies. It also says the US policy should prioritize resistance to Europe's current trajectory within European nations. It also called for the restoration of Western identity and claims that Europe will be unrecognizable in 20 years or less, and its economic issues are eclipsed by the real and more stark prospect of civilizational erasure. It is far from obvious whether certain European countries will have economies and militaries strong enough to remain reliable allies. Okay. In contrast, it celebrated the influence of, quote, patriotic European parties. And it says, America encourages its political allies in Europe to promote this revival of spirit. So that was a very interesting. I mean, the Swedish Prime Minister said it was basically the document placed the US to the right of the extreme right. I mean, if you say to somebody that, here we go. Where are we? America, patriotic European parties, celebrating the influence of patriotic European parties and encouraging its political allies in Europe to promote this revival of spirit. That, to me, if you're saying to somebody, we're going to help encourage these parties in Europe, so a Vox in Spain, a Reform UK in the UK, an ADF in Germany. If you're promoting that's you're trying to push influence on that. And it's a stark contrast to what Trump came in going, America first, what happens elsewhere. It's like, well, yeah, we will have America first, but we will try and promote America as long as it's sort of, if it apes up. It's almost trying to, is he trying to export, does he think he can export MAGA or the MAGA vision to Europe?
Well, this idea the United States they're starting to influence European politics. They've never done before. That's not true. I mean, American politics always have influenced European politics from since the end of Second World War. I mean, just taking the example of Spain, I mean, they maintained Franco during nearly 40 years in power because it was to the convenience of the United States to have a wall against communism in Western Europe. The fear of the Americans was if the Franco regime collapsed, the communists could take advantage of that collapse and get in there. So that's why they put, military bases here in Spain and everything else. So what I'm trying to say with these is the United States has always influenced politics in Europe to the benefit. Now, Trump is seeing that influencing politics in Europe now, it's convenient for him and for the United States to have nationalist parties in European politics, like the Reforms and the ADF and so on. That influence from the United States into Europe, it hasn't changed. It's the same. The only thing is that instead of going for the middle of the road parties and to maintain well furnished with cash, those governments, which is what they did after the Second World War, and now it seems that the route that they're taking is to influence the nationalist parties. We will see what happens with it, because at the moment, none of these, apart from Orban, and you could say maybe Meloni, but Meloni is very sort of more of a conservative, politician than extremist one. They haven't touched power yet. The Reform hasn't touched power. Vox haven't touched power. So all of these parties at the moment, they are in opposition, if you like, and none of them have had a real influence in policy in Spain yet. When they do, if they do, then we will see what they have to bring to the table.
This from Richard. Andres makes the assumption that Donny is leaving, because this is the whole thing. I mean, that people are saying, "Oh, he might not." He might.
I mean, for him to stay, it would have to. America would have to have an earthquake, if you like, for him to be able to get around the American Constitution and sort of remain in power. Let's not forget also that I think Donald Trump is about 70.
It's 80, no, he's 80 something.
He's nearly 80 so you have to think that by the time the election comes, age is going to have to play a card there. So it's... I don't think... I know that the talk is...
Sorry, excuse me, 79.
Well, 79, so... I think the idea that he is going to, sort of remain more than 2 terms, which has never been done before, it would really... I mean, I don't put it past them, but it's going to be very, very difficult. I would say almost impossible. In the next 3 years, we'll see what the economy in the United States does. The damage, all the import taxes and the tariffs and all of the economic policies of Trump. What's the outcome is, and then we'll see if the Republicans manage to get another term with a candidate, and whether the candidate will follow the steps of Trump, or Trump will have any influence in the next candidate. We'll have to wait and see. But the suggestion that he will get another term in office, I think is too far-fetched for me. But I mean, said,
there are, strangely enough, there are now there are now websites, or some of the news agencies are reporting on Trump's declining health as well, which is quite interesting when you think about the train crash that was Biden's declining health, which we all saw, and people are saying, well, some of the reasons he's maybe seeing some of the signs of the first signs of early onset dementia, and also maybe of mini stroke. Can I just want to go to the WhatsApps? The recent US 29 page dossier was just nonsense. Mentioned democratic just 3 times, and the Ukraine stuff was yet another Google Translate of what the Russians told the US to broadcast. Age is irrelevant when it comes to Donald Trump. He'll leave when he's dead. He said that when he won the last time round, that voters only needed to get him this time for the last time. This one in from Peter. Let's be honest, the US is a failing nation. If Europe stops buying US arms, they will be in big trouble. Also, Europe holds a mass of UK debt. I could go on. Viva Europe. That's so. 952 78 4000. Quick break and then back.
TRE.
Talk Radio Europe. Viewpoint with Giles Brown.
Yes, indeed. Giles Brown here, live from Studio TRE Talk Radio, your voice in Spain. Should you wish to get your thoughts upon what we're talking about, or anything else that you're thinking of, then these are, it can be local, national or international. These are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
So, yeah, just talking a little bit about the reaction to the recent policy. Also, there was this American First, they were promoting the American First message and saying that they are going to go after narco terrorists as well. This is basically they're attacking drug trafficking boats in the Caribbean Sea and the Pacific Ocean. And of course, if you're in Venezuela, you'll be a bit nervous.
Yeah, this is a story about Venezuela, really.
They released the ex-head of Honduras or El Salvador. I'm trying to look at one of the. I will check it in a minute. But he'd been sentenced to, I think, nearly over 30 years in prison for drug. The ex-president of one of the Central American states, and Trump pardoned him from American prison, saying he was a good man, and the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing in Venezuela.
Those 45 tons of cocaine were just for personal use. Yeah. Obviously, it's very difficult for
it won't be personal use. Yeah. No. But the whole thing of Venezuela, it goes back to. Let's not go too far back, because then we get into. But in the last election, Maduro, who is in real terms is a dictator, he got this mock election. Funnily enough, he lost. And he just denied that he lost the election. He said he won it. He didn't produce the election report in terms of voting and all of the certified votes and everything else to remain in power. That's very inconvenient for the United States to have that guy there, and they have. Well, this is my view here, but they have used the drug trafficking issue as an excuse to put pressure on Venezuela and to get good public opinion behind it. So they have been blown these boats that apparently they take the drugs to the United States, these speedboats, a little bit like they do here in but can you imagine
the reaction if Sanchez suddenly said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to start machine gunning the boats coming over from from Morocco. That would be a bit...
Yeah, but public opinion in America seemed to accept that is a good way of stopping the, drug trafficking.
A good way of stopping drug trafficking is to stop the Americans buying the thing. Without demand, there is no supply.
But let's be clear about this. And it's evident to me that the reason why they're doing this is not because of the drug trafficking, is that they want to have control of the petrol production of Venezuela. It is the oil, my friend. And that's what's behind all this curtain of, fighting the drug traffickers in Venezuela. The reality is that Venezuela is quite an interesting country to analyze, because they're very rich on natural resources, mainly oil. Yeah. But they, apart from selling the oil, they don't do anything with it. They haven't developed an industry around the oil.
Well, isn't there a massive refinery in Punto Fijo?
Yes, there are, but they're all foreign companies that they have gone and invested.
Repsol, who were kicked out, weren't they?
The main one was Repsol, who put the infrastructure there and everything else. But the government itself, they haven't done developing, with all that income, developing not only that industry, but other industries that they could have developed, like tourism, for instance, or any of.
It's interesting because if you look at next to their neighbour, Colombia. Yeah, obviously they've had quote unquote some trials and tribulations since the 80s, but they are now seeing themselves as tourism in Colombia. It is a popular. It's a popular tourist destination. It's reinvented itself in a way that Venezuela has not.
They haven't, because they've had this dictatorial government, so-called communist dictatorial. Since the era of Chavez, and he was replaced by Maduro. So here's a bit of democracy for you. Nothing has changed for so many years, despite all these elections, which is, hard to believe anyway. But what's behind it is the oil. And they're putting more and more pressure to Maduro to go, since he lost the election, but refused to accept he lost the election and told everybody he'd won it. So there is more and more international pressure on him to go. The United States want him to go as well, because whoever replaces Maduro, which will be this Corina lady, who's the head of the opposition, she's going to be very friendly with the United States, and they will benefit from the oil trading on a free basis.
It just struck me because now.
So what I'm trying to say is that yes, the public opinion is behind what they're doing, because in theory they're fighting drug trafficking, and that is seen as a good thing, although they're bombing boats.
That's the Christmas message. Fighting drug trafficking is a good thing. Vote Gallardo.
Yes. My opinion on drug trafficking, it's been hasn't changed for a long time. I think it's one of the most evil trades in the world, and this
from a man who works in real estate in Marbella.
What I'm trying to say, what's behind all that screen is that United States want to have something to say about the oil.
Right then, got this coming in. Good morning, Giles. This is Claudia from Nerja. Good morning. I'm thinking Trump is pissed off because he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize. And Venezuela did. Well, Venezuela didn't get it. I mean, it was the woman who got it. But of course, now that Trump has got the FIFA World Peace Prize, did you see that?
I saw that.
So now they can both talk as Peace Prize winners, him and the opposition.
But look at it was quite interesting.
Rumpelstiltskin style. What is Rumpelstiltskin? Sorry, Claudia, please enlighten me. What is Rumpelstiltskin style? Is that if you call it by its name, it comes, or is that Beetlejuice?
But what's quite interesting about the FIFA thing is that the first thing I noticed was that the World Cup, it's going to take place in 3 different countries.
Yeah.
Mexico, United States, and Canada.
Yeah.
But the only one that was on the stage was Trump.
Yeah.
So he took the center stage for, I mean, you would think that he would invite the other, representatives of the other countries that take place in the World Cup to, share the stage.
It's going to be really,
but not with him.
It's going to be really interesting for Haiti because they're on his banned list.
Yeah.
So basically, under current US policy, the entire team can't come in. And if you are, say Colombia or Brazil or whatever, Mexico, you're a Mexican supporter and they're playing in the States, are you as a Mexican, if you are, if one of the Mexican team is playing in the States at some point, or one of South America, Colombia is playing, Chile, are you going to be, would you want to go to a stadium? Because there could be ICE agents waiting outside to deport you.
Yeah, but I think they're going to whitewash the image of America during the World Cup. That's what they do with these sporting events, So they whitewash the image of the country,
right,
by making it look very welcoming and very free and very everything. I mean, the Middle East countries are masters of that,
but they won't get
Saudi and everything. They just take these sporting events and they make it look as if they are absolutely wonderful. You saw the Abu Dhabi the F1 the other day, and celebrating with champagne and everything. You think, hello, what are they doing drinking champagne in Abu Dhabi?
These messages coming in. Good morning to you. Good. This is from, indeed, morning, mate. Excuse me. The war on drugs has been a constant, pointless, abject failure. America, here's an idea. Make your civilization such that people don't feel the need to get high to get through the day. Fighting drug trafficking with machine guns is laughable. Legalize tax, etc. Move it from the hands of criminal organizations. So obvious to me. Thank you very much for that one. It was Honduras, the president who was...
That's correct,
Honduras.
Yes. You got it there.
Because it's the one with the massive prisons is El Salvador, isn't it? That's the one that people were being deported to by mistake.
Yeah, the El Salvador.
Yeah.
Wow, what's his name? It's got a... it's gone now.
It was fizzy. By the way, it's rose water they spray. I just would like to say that. Richard, you're ahead of me. They don't spray champagne in Qatar. It's fizzy cordial, believe it or not.
Is it?
Yeah. Same in Saudi. They don't spray champagne. They spray rose-tinted fizzy water.
Oh, they fooled me then.
Works for me, yeah. Well, you get champagne in your eyes, it stings apparently. Tell you what, we're going to take a quick break and then back with more Viewpoint.
Talk Radio Europe.
Your voice in Spain. Viewpoint with Giles Brown.
Cancel the kitchen scraps for lepers and orphans. No more merciful beheadings. And call off Christmas.
Now, going back to Rumpelstiltskin, as we were, I know it's a German fairy tale from the Brothers Grimm, but I'm just trying to work out what it's got to do with Donald Trump. Because, Claudia, please, do you think that Donald Trump looks like Rumpelstiltskin? Don't look at me like that, Andres, please.
I'm confused.
Well, no, because Claudia had said, typical Rumpelstiltskin style. So unless she calls Donald Trump Rumpelstiltskin.
Could be.
I'm just thinking there might be some allegory there. There's something about... It's like the emperors who had no clothes. Or
don't ask me.
Lady Godiva.
I'm only a little Spaniard.
There's no such thing. Right, moving swiftly onwards. It's fizzy water. Right then, looking at this.
I didn't know it was. I'm surprised about the fizzy water. I really, truly believe it was champagne.
No. They've never done that, especially in Saudi, because they get into...
Well, yeah, and in that case, I'll take it all back.
Right, so it was the president, the Honduran president was Juan Orlando Hernandez, who at one point they said he was at the centre of one of the largest and most violent drug trafficking conspiracies in the world. Then he was sentenced to 45 years to inspiring to import cocaine to the United States. But this pardon has led to the accusations of deceit and hypocrisy by the Trump administration as it comes while the president and his team continue to escalate his military campaign against drug trafficking out of Venezuela.
Well, that just proves that the drug trafficking campaign is just basically a smoke screen for something else. They're hiding behind that, which is a good cause, if you like.
Yeah.
When in reality they are looking for something else.
Guess what Trump posted? Make Honduras great again.
No.
Yes. Congratulations to Juan Orlando Hernandez on your upcoming pardon. You could put it on Truth Social because that's what you do. Make Honduras great again. So, yes. However, the judge of the case said he was a two-faced politician hungry for power, and he abused his presidency to operate the country as a narco-state where violent traffickers operated with near total immunity. So that was Honduras. So the Hondurians aren't too happy about that. So anyway, there you go. 952-78-4000. But I know the US has moved its largest aircraft carrier into the Gulf of Mexico. Or the Caribbean Sea, or whatever you want to call it. There was a couple of tweets this week where they were intimating that they might actually put, as the saying goes, boots on the ground, which I think is one of the words of 2025, or one of the sayings of boots on the ground. You would have to be a very, very brave president indeed, wouldn't you, to put advisors, if they're not already, to help sort of force regime change in Venezuela, because although it may not be, Venezuela might be under the cosh, the Venezuelans wouldn't be particularly, I think, enamored of US, the CIA activating regime change. Not that they haven't tried it before, especially in South America.
But you can't put anything past Donald Trump, as we have learned over the years. However, to start a war with Venezuela, I don't think it would
last long. Put it that way, I don't think. But
I don't think it would last long. No, but it's still it's a precedent that he's been banging on about not starting wars and just negotiating peace deals and negotiating, in the style of a businessman, all sorts of deals around the world, and just to suddenly put boots on the ground in Venezuela, I can't see it. But as I say, don't put it past him, because we don't know. I think what he's exercising a tremendous amount of pressure on Maduro to leave, to go, to be replaced by the opposition party in power, which will be a friendly towards the United States. And so they will have more influence and control over the oil production of Venezuela. I think that's what what is behind all this, it seems to me. To start an all-out war with Venezuela, it wouldn't go down well with the voters in America. Yeah. It wouldn't go well in the international community.
You kind of say that, but then again, you never know, do you? Because it might be seen as one of these, we previous to Trump, we looked at the states basically being East Coast, West Coast, and the rest of it being what they call flyover states. As Norm from Cheers famously said, my mother-in-law lives in one of those rectangular states somewhere in the middle, because, all the straight lines. But if history has taught us nothing, Andres, over the past couple of years, it's that there is a huge welding of support of people who voted for Trump and MAGA, and the MAGA ideal perhaps is maybe moving a little away from Trump himself, with who, Stein and everything else like that. So maybe they would go, God bless our military, because you've only got to say thank you for your service, and off we go.
Well, I think the voters in America are more simplistic than that. I think that Trump has promised them America great again. Yeah. He's promised them a better...
And Honduras great again now.
And he's promised them a better economy, investing in their own industry. He's promised in Detroit that the car industry will flourish again. He's promised them all of those things, that they are really... they believe that their economy is going to grow to a point where they're going to be more comfortable, they're going to be richer, they're going to be, if you tell them that now you have to send troops to and start a war in South America, I don't think that would go down so well with their own voters. It's my opinion. It's very difficult because, you go to the middle of Texas and people might, disagree with me. But I think the overall picture of what the message of Trump that is successful is the fact that he's promised people that they're going to be better off, not spending money on wars. These wars are very, very expensive, and the taxpayer has to pay for it. So I don't think it would go down very well to start a war with Venezuela. But it would go down very well if they managed to put enough pressure to get rid of Maduro, which I would welcome myself, because that would be very, very good for Spain, because we could recover some of the investment that we had in Venezuela that had been taken from Maduro, and we would benefit from that. And he would, the opposition could, sort of take over. Not really take over, because they genuinely won the election. So it's what people want there. So the Venezuelans want the opposition to be in power and get rid of Maduro. And then obviously the United States will have a big influence on the policy making and the financial making of Venezuela that would benefit them. And that's where I think that's where they're at.
Yeah, and also you could say, I mean, also one of the best named islands ever Venezuela has, just off Venezuela, Margarita Island.
The Margarita Island,
Imagine that. I mean, that just screams a Trump casino and hotel, doesn't it? Come to Trump casino on Margarita Island. What are you serving today? Mojitos? Anyway, is he the last sort of Latin American or the last South American struggle, communist? I'm just trying to think, there's still Raul Castro, presumably, isn't there?
Well, Castro is in Cuba.
Yeah.
Not Castro, but, Cuba has continued to be a communist. Nicaragua, don't know, but then Mexico they've got a socialist government there. So the populist socialist is still very present in South America. But on the other hand, the contrast of that is that in Argentina you got Milei. And
you've got in El Salvador.
Milei, you say that, but Milei on the midterm elections he won again, and he's got even more power. And if you speak to Argentinians in Argentina, which I have, they have. They recognise that some improvement to their economy and the stability of the economy now is more present. And although they complain about everything being so expensive now, but hey, we do the same in Europe. So just try to go to a supermarket in London and you'll see how expensive everything is. It's the same is happening there, but the economy is more stable. So and Milei is won clearly. The midterm elections. So there is an element of the right-wing policies that they are now sinking into, South America, that might spread to other countries.
952-784-1000. Daniel Ortega is still president of, believe it or not, according to this.
Nicaragua.
Yeah, along with his wife Rosario Murillo. So
there you go. This is a family affair. Then
family affair. Yeah, but of course, Daniel Ortega in the 80s was
80s, 90s. Yeah,
he was the absolute sort of. Reagan was absolutely gunning for him, if you pardon the expression. Right then, on that note, I think we're going to the end of the first half of this morning's Viewpoint.
Already?
Yeah, indeed. We will be back in the second half. We're going to be looking at the situation in Spain. I think we'll look at some Spanish politics as well.
Why not?
Indeed, thank you. If you wish to get your viewpoint across, it can be local, national, or international. Then these are indeed the numbers
to contact TRE. Please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Right then, we're going to the end of the first half of this morning's Viewpoint, and then it will be the national and international news, and we will return with Andres Gallardo to discuss the issues of the day. We may look at some of the issues closer to home here in Spain, populist candidates, perhaps what's happening in the hang on second half, Andres, and we may even. Although I'm loath to do it, look at the poisoned chalice that is in fact Eurovision. And should we, shouldn't we, I couldn't give a I couldn't give an ABBA medley about Eurovision, but that's beside the point. But all this coming up in the second half of A Viewpoint. But national and international news up next.
Talk Radio Europe. Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests. Viewpoint.
Yes, indeed. Back again, second half of Viewpoint with me, Giles Brown, and Andres Gallardo. If you want to get involved with today's Viewpoint, if you've got an issue you want to discuss, it could be national, international, or even local. These are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Yes, indeed. Andres, let's turn our attention to news from around Spain. Some of the things that headlines that have been crossing Spain over the last couple of days. Apart from Javi Alonso, who's how's Bournemouth getting on, by the way?
Oh, don't mention it.
Okay.
I didn't want to mention the Cherries because since I mentioned them in this program. They keep going down the table. But yeah, we got a good draw against Chelsea last weekend, so that was a good thing.
Right then, look.
In terms of the politics in Spain, what's quite interesting now is that we're starting with the election round. Let me explain.
Yeah, please do.
In Spain, we, as most countries will have, you've got your local elections, your national elections. But in Spain, we have the additional regional elections. They don't coincide in time for one reason or another. They can be at a different time. So on the 21st of December, we got the regional election in Extremadura.
Right.
In May, I think it is, we will have the election in Andalusia. Around the same time, there is regional elections in Aragon. So we are in a constant campaign, election campaign, which happens more often than I think people would like, but that's what we've got. And the first one, as I said, is 21st of December, and we have the election in Extremadura.
Right.
Currently governed by the Conservative PP, with some of the votes of Vox to help them to be there. The reason why they called the election is they couldn't agree on the budget, so the President PP decided that without a budget they couldn't govern, so they called an election. The polls that came out this morning give the PP a majority, maybe not a complete majority. They might need a few votes from Vox to allow them to form government there. And we are going to see, according to the polls, that the Socialist Party, the PSOE, currently in power in central government, are going to have a disastrous result. In May, we will have the same situation in Andalusia, where the polls said the PP will win the election in Andalusia.
Well,
they might not even need Vox.
Strangely enough, the Partido Popular has been very strong in Andalusia.
It's been in the last 4, 5, 6 years, they've been very, very strong here. They might not even need Vox in Andalusia. They don't, they've got absolute majority at the moment. Then in Aragon, we've got they're coming up, and so on. So, as I said, we are in a permanent, sort of election campaign in Spain. Where there is really needed is a general election for central government, but Sanchez has said he'll stay until 2027. He's not going to call an election. I don't know how he's going to manage to spend the next 2 years without a supportive parliament. They cannot legislate. They cannot do anything. They're in total paralysis. And on top of that, they've got all these corruption scandals. There was a new one last week. Yeah. And for one of the top generals of the party, a guy called Salazar, was involved in a case of sexual misconduct in the Moncloa, which is the equivalent of 10 Downing Street. Right. Misconduct in the party as well, with women. Yep. And that's very damaging for the party, because although it's something that they sort of very proud of to be holding the flag of feminism, to find so many of the members being involved in cases where women abuse or mistreatment or use of prostitution, that kind of thing, and they're not just guys in a village or whatever. They are, the main team that surrounds Pedro Sanchez, the Prime Minister. And that's quite damaging, you got the case of the guy Ábalos, who's currently in prison awaiting trial. And it's quite funny because everyone is talking about the use of prostitution and how badly he talked about women and everything else. He's not in prison for that. He's in prison for taking bribes. That's the main crime. But what it makes more damage to the party, and it's the situation where they hold the flag of feminism.
You think of the cabinet of Zapatero, for example, which was very feminine, very female sort of representation, very strong female representation in that. I mean, even more so than famously what was called the Blair Babes back in the 90s.
Yeah, but I think that the socialists in general have lost a little bit the ideology side of the, they've become a middle of the road. Everywhere in Europe, the socialists become a sort of middle of the road, a centrist parties, and to make the difference, they have grabbed flags that will make the difference with other centre parties, and one of them is feminism. There's nothing that should qualify feminism as something that is left-wing. The same as the environment. Why is feminism something left-wing? Why cannot it be a conservative sort of value?
Because it's the conservative values see it as like it or lump it as the nuclear family, and therefore it harks back to a time where women.
I disagree with that. I disagree. You can have a conservative sort of view of the economy, a conservative view of the society, and at the same time be respectful with women and advocate for salary equality and equal opportunities. All of those things, you can advocate being a conservative, but the left have made that a flag of theirs. And the same with environment. You are, if you're right wing, you're against the environment. As if anyone could be against the environment. Yeah, and if you're left wing, you are, sort of protective of the environment. I mean, that is just a fallacy. That's
but historically,
not true.
The Party Popular had very strong links with the Catholic Church, and therefore, therefore,
not necessarily. I mean, well, they are conservatives, so they advocate for strong families, and sort of.
But not stay-at-home dads, for example. You wouldn't say the party.
No, I mean, there's a lot of women that work in the party. I mean,
talking of which, this recent poll in Paris, which I know we don't go for polls very often unless it's mine, which I forgot to put up this morning. Los votantes del Partido Popular valoran más a Ayuso que Feijóo.
And and she's a woman.
Yes, she's
so there you go. So, I mean, there's not necessarily, feminism doesn't have necessarily to be a left-wing thing. That's in this modern age, it's not. So the fact that Ayuso is one of these politicians she's quite brash and quite loud. And people seem to like that. She calls a spade, as you would say.
Well, she's also very, she was handling the social media, wasn't she, for the Partido Popular at one point? She was, she's of the Partido Popular politicians. She understands the value of image, and apart from her famous "let them eat pizza."
She does. She was very loud during COVID, saying he wanted, freedom. So when they were banning opening hours and everything else, she was against that, and she wanted people to sort of keep the economy going and everything else. So she became very popular in the region, which is Madrid, which is one of the most influential regions, obviously, in Spain. And in terms of popularity, in Madrid is super, super popular. I don't know how well she would do if she was a national leader in different areas of Spain where they have different sort of values and views, especially in rural Spain and so on. Feijóo, on the other hand, is a very what would you call it? Timid, sort of.
He's a great man, isn't he? He's a great man. I cannot actually think of any sort of.
He's a nice guy, but in this day in politics, you have to be brash and bold and aggressive, and he's not. He's quite a moderate type. He did very well because he was the president of the region in Galicia for many years. He won 3 elections in a row, I think. So he was very, very popular there. He's a statesman as opposed to a brash politician, quite an old-fashioned statement, if you like. And people these days seem to like the more aggressive, the more sort of battling kind of figure, and that on those terms. So going back to the Socialist Party is tainted with many cases of corruption at the moment. Even in Torremolinos, they found that the head of, which is down the road from here, the head of the party is also being accused of abusing or mistreating members of the party there with text messages, a little bit of they were published in the press what he said in the text messages, and to be honest, they are quite disgusting. There is in a work environment, there is no need for that kind of talk. There's no need for that kind of abuse, not even a workspace or outside a workspace, but even worse if he's in a workspace. All these corruption cases and all these negative news that come out is making the Socialist Party very, very weak. More and weaker and weaker as weeks go. So Sanchez has got the view that if he calls a general election now, he's going to lose it, and he's saying, I want to spare Spanish people from having a right-wing government. This
is interesting.
Which is contrary to the democratic sort of value, and he's hoping that all these cases will go away, and by the time he calls a general election, his image has been cleared. But every week we learn of a new case. So how deep can a government sink to realise that there is? It's time to go.
This is El País and CERT carried out a poll here. Only 2,000 people, mind you, but they said out of 2,000 people asked, Partido Popular got 375 votes, PSOE got 452, Vox got 374, Sumar 100, and to Podemos 67. 22% said that approval rating for Sanchez. Then Santiago Abascal, of course, the leader of Vox. He was on 20%. Fiejo was on 16%. Yolanda Diaz, Sumar, no? Yeah. She's on 8%. And Irene Montero, who, you're laughing, explain.
Irene Montero is the wife of Pablo Iglesias, who was the founder and leader of Podemos.
Ah, of course.
And since he retired, he put the wife as the leader of the party. So they're quite amusing, not to use another word.
Yeah.
But, I mean, your source, and I said it to you, Giles, before, you're looking at El País.
Yeah.
El País is part of the machinery of propaganda of PSOE. There are other papers out there that you should sort of try to balance your views in terms of polls and that kind of thing,
right.
and opinion as well. All the writers in El País are appointed by the PSOE, so it's not the most sort of independent of papers. It's okay to read it and to know what the view is from that side, but it's completely biased and quite grotesque the way they do it. So I wouldn't.
952-784-4000 is the phone number. Good morning to Elizabeth in Brighton. Good to have you with us. Hi there. Just a thought. Family and Trump family and friends, as they say, follow the money. If he or his family and friends can make money out of it, they'll try to engineer it. Just remember, Trump has gone bankrupt twice. No news yet, maybe after Christmas, New Year, etc., etc., etc. Thank you for that one in. Other stuff coming in. It says, Rosewater started all the way back in the first Malaysian Grand Prix. Thank you. The only person who's going to get enriched in themselves is Donnie's entourage, not the electorate who voted for them, i.e. the poorly educated, as he calls them. Another survey being sent in from Richard. Thank you for that. That shows Partido Popular just above 30%, Vox just below 30%. No, sorry, Partido Popular just above 30%, and then it's PSA just below 30%, Vox heading up to 20%. The rest are sort of flatlining at the bottom. He says it can't be that damaging for Pedro. He's closing in on Partido Popular in the polls. Maybe it's because the Partido Popular don't value women. Ayuso gives it out, but she's very bad at taking it in, very much like Uncle Nige. That is Farage for the rest of us. If Fiejo falls, they should wheel out Alfonso Rueda. He's far more charismatic.
Well,
Alfonso, yeah.
That's a difficult one. I mean that poll that your listener has sent. I'd like to see the source of it because there are other polls as well where they show the difference is bigger. In any case, the polls they do the job that they do. The reality at the end of the day is what we'll see in the elections. And sometimes you read the polls and you're expecting an outcome and something else. And something else happens once the result come in. I think that we are going to be. I would be very, very surprised if the PSOE gets to anywhere near 30%. With the current situation, let's not forget that Ayuso might not be popular to some people, but she is got absolute majority in Madrid, and she is looking as that she will renew the majority if there was an election now. She's a very, very popular figure in Madrid. And as I said before, the question is that some people say they should be the leader of the PP for, in the rest of Spain, also the national leader. I don't know if she would do that well outside Madrid. As I said, she might not be so appealing in rural areas. as she is in the city. But at the moment, I don't think the PP is looking at renewing the leadership. And Feijóo is quite, the one who will, head to the general election when that comes.
Yeah, when do they break up in Spain, if you like, when does the Congress and the Senate, when do they take their recess? When will they be going away from? Have they already taken their break after this?
They've taken the break now, I think this week, and they come back in February.
February, right?
In Congress, that's a nice little break for them.
They are basically doing the Epiphany. They're walking, obviously, from somewhere east towards Bethlehem or something like that.
Well, they have to go skiing.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, to the lines we go. 952 78 4000, which is the phone number if you wish to get involved. Morning, caller, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Good morning, Giles. Morning, Andrea.
Morning, Alf. Morning.
No voices on the line. Oh, you must be spellbinding people.
I'm bewitching them.
That's
I think it was when I started off with my little rant about the Saturnalia festival and the Christian thing and the whole bit. I think that set the tone. I think. Yes, indeed.
Andreas, you asked a question.
Andreas, you asked a question.
I asked a question.
Yeah. You said, how low does a party have to go to stoop or whatever before it says it's got to be re-elected? And it's called, I say it every time, I'm in power, I'm not going to give up power, why should I go through that? And I really don't care what you or anybody else thinks about how low I'm stooping. And as for it being a party, since I've been in Spain, I've now realised what real corruption is, and you've been going through it most of the morning at that level. Whether it's parliamentarians, whether it's local authorities, whether it's whoever it is, it's called noses in the trough. So whilst all those people in Pessoa have got their noses in the trough, they're not going to cause any waves for Sanchez. Sanchez says we'll stay in power for as long as we can. Presumably all of those people then get another couple of years or whatever it is added to their pensions and get themselves sorted out for jobs after they get deselected. And it's just that whole circular corrupt system. And I'm not just, I'm a Pessoa member, but what I see and what I hear is just like astounds me. And then you go, so what's the alternative? Well, it certainly isn't any of the other political parties, because it appears to me that wherever you go in Spain, you're going to walk into this wall of corruption. Everybody wants to take money unfairly, and I just don't understand why Spain hasn't come to grips. It won democracy in a long way round. It gets to a democratic system and then effectively distorts democracy so that you've got lots and lots of what I think are mini dictators. So you go to a UK city where there's a mayor. The mayor has no, he can say, well, I'm going to do this, and he has a budget, but it still goes to a committee of people. It still goes through an election process. It still goes through a vetting process. Here, it seems that the local mayor decides this, and that's it. It doesn't need to go through the council or anybody. It's just so distorted, and Spain, I think, Spanish people have got to become more challenging of the people who are elected to serve in office. That's the way I see it.
But, I mean, is it general apathy, do you think, that leads to this thing?
No, let me just correct that. You're right. There is an unsustainable number of cases of corruption. They give a really bad image, and yes. But every time there's a corruption case that is discovered, taken to court, sentence, and everything else, there's always behind a system put in place to try to avoid that happening again. The problem is that they find, sort of ways round the systems that they're put in place. Like any criminal, they always find a way around, sort of to break the law, and they do. I mean, if you get the case of the number 2 of the PSOE in Madrid, he created a structure, a company structure, where he could make the developers could make the payment to that company on what is supposed to be a legitimate payment that then they wouldn't have getting hold of. So that was a new sort of way of getting around the systems that are in place. There's a transparency website in every administration where any citizen can go there and see what's going on, what projects they're in place, who have tendered for those projects, and everything else. So there is the intention of trying to avoid what you just said, Alf, that the mayor can make a decision without being challenged. That doesn't exist anymore, and there are measures put in place, but it's not. That doesn't mean that those measures are the end of it, because the people who want to commit the crime, they find a way round those measures to find a new way of getting hold of the money. I'm not trying to say that it's a country that has found the solution to corruption, because we keep seeing cases of corruption. It keeps happening, but actions, things are put in place to try to avoid that. But sometimes they're not successful enough to avoid it.
Yeah, but Andreas, you talk as if the number 2 in Madrid did this, and he created a structure for a company, da-di-da-di-da, and you go, how can one person, right, it's not a whole army, how can one person on their own set up a structure and a company in order to corrupt the system without anybody else getting involved?
In this
and I'll tell you how, because the other people involved have all got their noses in the trough. That's how
exactly. This particular case that I'm referring to, he was the head of the operation, but there were other people involved as well. The head of infrastructures and the head of roads, and all these people. They're also investigated, and they also will have to go to court. With the same case. So it wasn't one guy on his own. It was It was a team of people doing it.
It was one guy who did it, and an army of people behind him who propped him up. So they weren't setting the company up. He was setting the company up. It's in his name, presumably, or it's in an organisation that he's set up that's his front. And there seems to be no thing. So I agree with what you're saying. People are trying to stop this happening, but I'm not talking about the politicians either. This is people, and Giles was right. Is it apathy? I don't think it's apathy in terms of people can't be bothered to get involved. I think it's apathetic that people have a system, and as we've got this transparency thing. We've had that in England for years and years and years. Phone up this hotline and blow it on these benefit fraudsters and all that. Never works. Never works because the local authority don't put enough money into challenging it. The police don't give a monkeys about it because it's too small fry, and it ends up going to court. It wastes a lot of court time, a lot of magistrates' time, a lot of whoever's time, and at the end of it, someone's told, "Oh, don't do that again." So there isn't a system. It's not just in Spain, and I'm not saying it's wrong in Spain. I just see, I suppose, because of where I came from and the background, mine was the People's Republic of Newham, and I think it's because they've been doing it for a few more years that the British have a better system for covering up the corruption than you do in Spain. It's just so obvious in Spain. It's front page news every time. You open the local papers and it's like, oh, this person's done that and that person's done this and this mayor's done this and this mayor's done that. So it's my view as an outsider. I'll say, I've lived in Spain a long time. I understand the system. I think I understand some of the system. But what you never get is genuine people standing up, somewhere and saying this is wrong and we're going to stop it. And what you don't get in your political parties are people who are saying that.
You do.
Your political parties are just saying we want power.
Alf, you do. People stand up and don't want that kind of thing. And
where do they do it publicly?
I mean, you said, oh, this mayor, this mayor, that. I mean, there's thousands of mayors in Spain who haven't had any kind of corruption in the mandate. There are thousands, if not millions, of civil servants who do their job and do it correctly and
always has been.
So, and there's, it is in a way, I was going to say a good thing, but yeah, it is a good thing that every time a corruption case happens and it gets discovered and it hits the headlines, rightly so, because it means that these systems that I was talking about that put in place, they eventually get a result, and these people go to court and they get sentenced and they get fined and they get they cannot.
But it's usually only the big issues. Marbella was a big issue for, was it Gil, his name? Whoever it was. And these big ones, you talk about Sanchez, the things that have been going on.
Yeah, but since then, there's like in Marbella, for instance, since the Gil era, things have changed and there's systems in place where it becomes more and more difficult to be corrupt.
Because the
of course, they might find
this
a
is
way.
the sound of me falling. Right, I'm getting on my soapbox and singing the Internationale now.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to do that doesn't mean that we might have a case of corruption here because someone is found the gap where they can sort of get their hands,
Found the gap. That sounds like the tube, the guy on the tube.
But this is also it's a little bit like drug trafficking. Have we
segued away from drug trafficking from Venezuela to drug trafficking to Marbella then in one easy
No,
leap?
what I'm trying to say is the drug traffickers, they find a way of getting drugs into a country, for instance, and the police realise how they're doing it. They put a stop to that, but then suddenly they found another way of doing it. This is a little bit.
Just want to read what's coming from Richard. He says, Morning. Last few part. UK is more corrupt than Spain, Alf. The financial services industry based in the city of London facilitates a system that makes the UK the most corrupt nation in the world. The anti-mafia journalist Roberto Saviano said at the Hay Festival. Saviano has been living under armed police guard for more than 10 years after writing an expose of the Neapolitan Camorra. Said London's banking institutions were key components of criminal capitalism, which laundered drug money through the offshore networks. He said, if I ask what's the most corrupt place on earth, you might say it's Afghanistan, maybe Greece, Nigeria, south of Italy. I would say it's the UK. It's not UK bureaucracy, police or politics, but what is corrupt is the financial capital. 90% of the owners of capital in London have their headquarters offshore. UK corruption goes from its head, the monarchy, to toe Joe Bloggs committing benefits fraud. The Cold Girl case is chump chase compared to the PPE scandals in the UK. Alf is guilty of merely seeing petty crime / fraud. There you go.
I wish people would listen sometimes rather than make up what they think they've heard or make up what they think I said. I said quite clearly, absolutely clearly, Britain is as corrupt as the next place. I don't know whether it's more corrupt, less corrupt, but it's corrupt. And it has been corrupt for years and years and years. What I said was, the difference is that because they've been at it for so much longer, this democracy, so much longer than Spain, they've learned, the people that are the wrongdoers have learned how to hide it better. I didn't say it didn't occur, and of course all that, and especially when you get to the highbrow stuff, all the financial institutions and people like that, and you just go, so what the normal people, it's not apathy. Right. People throw their hands in the air and go, but I don't know what to do about it. it's unlawful to murder somebody, but it still happens. We understand that. It's not lawful for any corruption to exist, but it exists. It's how you deal with it, and it's how you try to stop it, and it's how you try to manipulate it. And all I'm saying is, in Spain, it's very much on the surface. It's very much in your face all of the time. There are comments made all of the time about this person, that person. You don't hear it as much in the UK. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Christ almighty, I told you I come from the People's Republic of Newham. Yep. Yeah, if you wanted to see bent organisations, housing stuff and benefits fraud and you name it, it happened in Newham. Probably still does happen in Newham, but they just had a better system for managing it so that it wasn't frontline headlines all the time. It's no different. Well, I was trying to sort of agree with what Andreas is saying. It is frustrating that these things happen all the time, and it appears that little can be done about it.
Alf, it is frustrating, and is what people feel in Spain when you speak to people. They're frustrated to see that, and they're frustrated because it's their money. And it's money that should not be going into people's pockets. It should be going to, the services, what they pay for, and they're frustrated. Absolutely. And they're annoyed about that, and then constantly fighting. That doesn't happen, and it keeps happening. And,
you're in the housing market industry, and, you just see and hear some of the things that are happening. Of course they happen in the UK. Land that's sold that shouldn't be sold and all of that stuff. But here it's just... It seems it's two steps more blatant.
There's more and more systems put in place to avoid...
I wish...
wrongdoing. I mean, you've got the same with cash. When I first came to Spain from the UK, I was astounded at the amount of cash transactions that were taking place and the amounts of cash that were taking place. It doesn't happen now. It doesn't happen so much now.
Well, no, because they are putting the systems in to do that.
Because
what
the systems
was funniest about that, Andreas, if you remember,
and it's the same with corruption cases. Every time the one flourishes and they see where the hole was, they try to patch it up and avoid that happening again. But these people are clever and they just find a way.
Absolutely.
And it's very tempting to be in a position of decision making when you've got a project that is 300 million euros, for instance, for a section of road somewhere.
Yep.
And this kind of contracts, then only 2 or 3 companies can tender for that kind of work because they need to have the infrastructure, they need to have the material,
the machinery, absolutely.
So it's very easy to sort of be able to say, okay, I'll give it to this one. Now, how can sort of decide to go for that one? How can they then pay me a backhand on that? And that's what's become more difficult. And that's when, in this particular case, I found a way of creating a company who advises the main company on health and safety, funnily enough, something that you do a lot in the UK. Yeah. And with this health and safety invoices was the money the way they released the money. So so they created an imaginary sort of imaginative way of getting the money out. But now, of course, when they see how they've done it, the next sort of regulation for tender on this kind of project, they will have to be sort of more transparency on how all that money is spent.
I remember a few years ago being on Viewpoint with is it Michael Sanker?
Yeah.
I was, and the government, the British government, were bringing in some. I think it was a budget thing that was going to affect medium-sized businesses, of which Mike used to run, I don't know if it's the biggest, certainly a big video empire in the UK, and he was obviously part of that, complaining about what the government were doing, but taking money out of business and that and the other. I said, so okay, mate, what is the first thing? You're a company, you're a fair size. I employed about 500 people, I think, maybe more. So what's the first thing your organisation, your company, what are you going to do to deal with this? He's going, well, we're going to employ our financial legal team in order to find ways of not having to pay this money. It was never ever we're going to work out a system to comply with the changes. It was always, and I said, but that's how business is organised. We all know that. Nobody organises to give money away. If you can save money, you'll save money. Whoever, even at my level, if you can get away with €5 off of something, you'll do it, So it's just that, to be honest, he's talking about this stuff, and you go, but did people not see how openly things are wrong? And how, why do the paper? I mean, I'm reading the British press. Obviously, there are many variants, but I read them every week, and I read a little bit of the Spanish stuff as well. It's just that it's all of the time. It's all of the time. It's in your face about what's going wrong at local level, what's going wrong at national level. And you were wrong, by the way. We do have a third tier of elections. We also have regional elections in the UK. So it's 4 years of elections, like there is in Spain.
Yeah, this is just a quick one here. This is from Richard Will. Vote for the least worst, Alf. That's what people could do. They don't even do that, as they will cite they're all the same, which is frankly stupid, let alone ridiculous.
Vote for the least worst. How many times have I heard that? Oh, do you remember screaming Lord Such in the Looney Party?
Listen, we've got 12 minutes and I've got to get 2 ad breaks out of the way.
Yeah, okay.
Right, so...
Nice talking to you. Carry on, Andreas, as usual.
Thank you, Alf.
Nice talking to you.
As always, thanks very much, Alf. Regular caller, of course. Quick break and then back with more Viewpoint.
TRE, your voice in Spain. Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe with Giles Brown.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Just in case you're wondering, we haven't lost our complete collective minds, or no more so than usual. But that is Let's Catch Up, of course, with the entitled song Let's Catch Up, the Ketchup song. The video was shot not a million miles away from the studio.
That's right, yeah.
It's like
the beach
Palm
bar
Beach.
down the road, yeah.
Palm Beach is no longer. However, the reason I'm playing that is not because I've had a more than normal rush of playing for that, but that was Spain's Eurovision Song Contest entry years and years and years and years and years ago. I'd probably say 5 years, so that's 21 years ago. And, of course... into the last 5 minutes, by the way. But, of course, Eurovision has caused something of a stir, to put it mildly, because Spain has pulled out, along with Denmark and Ireland and Montenegro, Turkey. Oh, no, hang on a second. No, they have Slovenia pulled out as well. So, and Spain has made an awful lot about this. I mean, it was a big thing. It's just, we talk about sports washing and sports teams being banned. I mean, look, Andreas, come on, you're a musician. Come on, you're one of your things is music. I mean, yes.
Look, what's the point of pulling out of that? I mean, let me start with this. I don't like Eurovision.
No,
I think it's pathetic. But
anyway.
on the other hand, there's a lot of people who like it, a lot of people who enjoy it. Hannah Murray is a great advocate of Eurovision. Look, all these gestures are made for the purpose of what? What are they going to achieve? I mean, behind all these, you got musicians, producers, songwriters, dancers, a whole team of people who are genuinely want to sort of express themselves, and everything else is an artistic sort of way of.
Apparently, I got the wrong song. By the way, I've just been notified. Oh well, there you go.
You got the wrong song.
Yeah.
What, for the Eurovision?
Yeah.
I had my doubts about that. You said yes.
Mary was their entry, not the ketchup song.
There you go. So
sorry.
Doesn't matter, but it could have been. It could easily be.
For what was the
but yeah, I mean, they do the same with sport. Ban this country, ban these players, ban these, I mean, in tennis, for instance, it's pathetic that they, the Russian players or Belarusian players, they have no flag next to their name.
Yeah.
What's all that about? We all know that Medvedev or Sabalenka, one is Russian, the other one is Belarusian.
Yeah.
So all these gestures that they try to do, they just like don't help anyone. Certainly don't help, the conflict in Gaza. They just,
and it's not as if this has a global political thing, does it? Because
it's a political thing. Eurovision has always been a political thing, and this has become another political thing, and they just makes it, even worse. One thing I didn't know, which I've learned during this thing the last week, is that Spain, or Spanish television, which is the ones who, it's not a country thing. It's a national television of every country who, The Spanish television was one of the biggest contributors to the money-wise towards the contest.
When it set up in the 60s?
It was set up, Spain didn't join the first time, it was 1963, 64.
So therefore, that was just basically bankrolling the Franco government.
Yeah.
So basically, it's a fascist organisation. So therefore, Spain is using it for political purposes as well. Therefore, I rest my case. Therefore, Spain should be.
Spain won it twice in 67 and 68, and that was what you do under Franco. But just putting that aside, I mean, I think it's pathetic that these countries pull out, especially now when there is a kind of peace deal in place.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah, don't laugh.
I'm not.
There is, officially a peace deal, and this could be a way of showing a kind of,
single Europe.
Sing together. And
of all the things to bring people. I mean, I saw there was a saying
anything that brings people together: sport, music, whatever.
Favorite Eurovision song? If you had to pick a Eurovision, if you had to pick a Eurovision song,
La La La.
Sorry,
La La La
by
Maciel. She won in 1967.
Right.
Great song.
Spanish?
Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a great song. That was supposed to be sung by Serrat.
Okay, yeah.
And at the time, he said he wanted to sing in Catalan, and Franco said no.
Exactly. So politics again, you see.
So politics again. There you go.
What's Catalan for La La La?
Exactly. The whole point.
Oh, genius. Right, we're almost out of time, Andres. Those bongos aren't the intro to the new Eurovision Song Contest in Trace, thank goodness.
Yeah, thank you very much, Giles.
Andres, we'll be back for the final Viewpoint of the year next week. Until then, have a great rest of your Tuesday. Stephen Ritson is up next.
The views expressed on Viewpoint by invited studio guests and callers do not constitute an opinion endorsed in any way by Talk Radio Europe.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this program, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit TRE.radio.